Hey guys, welcome to the video on Chapter 8, Lesson 1. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different this time. What I'm going to have you guys do from here on out, rather than the opening goals, I am going to be having you guys do opening questions. And essentially, all I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys pop up the opening questions here. You're going to pause the video, try to attempt to answer these questions. You want to make sure you write them down into Evernote, and then in a little bit, I'm going to pop them up on the screen, and you can check what the answer you thought it was versus the answer you had here. So I'll probably go ahead, pause the video now, and in a couple of seconds, I will go ahead and toss out the answers. So the answer to the very first one is heterotrophs consume other organisms and autotrophs can make their own food. That should be a review question back from the first unit about ecology. The second one, what is the name of the process in which plants turn sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide energy? This was pretty easy. This is middle school, photosynthesis. It might have confused you guys since I use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, but essentially it's the same thing. And the next one here, is a primary consumer a heterotroph or an autotroph? Well, he's a consumer, which means he has to eat other organisms. Bang, he's a heterotroph. Hopefully you guys remembered most of those key ideas we covered from ecology. If not, it's okay. I will be reviewing some of them here today. Okay, so my objectives, guys, for lesson 1 is that I have 3 goals for you guys today. First off, I want you guys to be able to summarize the 2 laws of thermodynamics. Secondly, I want you guys to be able to compare and contrast autotrophs and heterotrophs. And I want you guys to be able to describe how ATP works in the cell. And we'll cover a little bit about what ATP is here in a minute. That's probably a new term for you guys. But starting off, let's cover some review. Now, trophic levels. I need to do a quick review on this because I think some students need to see it again, and it's always important to review an idea before you get to information based upon it. So, trophic levels are basically just different steps in the food chain. And you guys have probably seen this before. We covered it all in the first unit of the school and all that about consumers and secondary and all of that stuff. And I don't think there's much really to review here. Just showing you guys this pyramid is probably enough, but essentially what happens is that you have the plants here at the bottom, they photosynthesize, they're your primary producers. Your next level is your herbivores, your primary consumers. Then you have the carnivores, the omnivores, and you have your top carnivores. Okay, energy and thermodynamics. This is all chemistry and physics, but guess what? It makes its way into biology too because all the sciences are interrelated. So, energy. Energy is just the ability to do work. So, when I move from one side of my classroom to the other side, I am doing work. I am expending energy. And anytime that something has to take place, whenever you're doing any kind of work, energy has to be involved in the process. And thermodynamics is basically just the study of the flow and transformation of energy in the universe. That's really all it is. So the two are interrelated. So thermodynamics is basically the study of energy and how it moves between things. So, thermodynamics has 2 laws. The first one says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only change forms. So, what this means is that when you're in your car and you're burning petrol to get the car to move forward, that energy isn't disappearing, it's changing forms, and mostly in the form of heat energy, which is the heat your engine gives off when it's going that slow internal combustion that happens in a car, and the movement, the fact the car goes forward. So, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it always just changes forms. The second one is that energy cannot be converted without losing it as some of the heat in the process. So, in the above example, in a best super awesome world, what would happen is you would press down the gas and all the energy you would be having the gasoline, having the petrol, igniting the engine, all that energy would be transferred as movement energy so the car moves. But that's not what really happens. What really happens is some of that energy does go towards the car moving, but some of it goes towards heat energy as well. Those of you guys who ever try to run your car without a functioning radiator will find out very quickly that your car can overheat if you don't have a functioning radiator system. And that's the reason, because the internal combustion generates heat because of the second law of thermodynamics, that some of the energy is going to be lost as heat. Now these 2 ideas here will become really important as we move through these chapters. I'm going to try to keep on referring to them here soon. Okay, autotrophs versus heterotrophs. This is all review, so I'll be really quick here. Autotrophs, they make their own energy. Heterotrophs, they have to consume others to survive. So you have the sun here. Autotroph is going to be making energy. A heterotroph here is going to be eating the leaf. And here's a carnivore here who's going to eat the heterotroph there. Okay, metabolism. Metabolism is insanely complicated, and this diagram here does not do it justice. Trust me when I tell you that things are a lot more complicated than this right here, but for the sake of a high school biology class, let's keep it simple. Okay, so metabolism. All metabolism is it's all the chemical reactions within the cell, period. That's it. Now, metabolism has two forms. And two of these forms, depending on what the metabolism is doing. The first one is called a catabolic metabolism. A catabolic metabolism is taking a large molecule and turning it into a smaller molecule. So if you have a large molecule like glucose, and you want to turn that glucose, which is sugar, into carbon dioxide and water, you have to go through a catabolic reaction, because we're taking a big molecule that's 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, 6 oxygen, and breaking it down into carbon dioxide, H2O, both which are much smaller molecules. An anabolic reaction is essentially the opposite. It's taking a small molecule and making them into bigger molecules. This is what photosynthesis does, is it takes carbon dioxide, water, and it turns it into glucose, which is sugar. So essentially, you think about this as breaking down molecules to give you energy, and this right here is building molecules up to give you energy. Now, both of these processes can also be used for other things as well. So anabolic processes, your skin, the building up of your skin, that's an anabolic process because your body's taking smaller molecules and making them bigger. So when I say that metabolism is really complicated, I'm not kidding. What I'm really trying to get here, though, is that you guys don't have to worry about a lot of that complication. But if you go further in biology, it's really cool to see some of the things that your body can do with a molecule. Okay, as I kind of talked about a minute ago, there are two important types of metabolism. There's photosynthesis, which takes carbon dioxide and water and creates glucose. And that's the whole first part of the cycle right here. And then there's cellular respiration, which takes glucose and oxygen and turns it into carbon dioxide and water. Essentially, these two processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration, they work in this never-ending cycle that happens on Earth, essentially as everything is sort of recycled. It's oftentimes, essentially, this is your carbon and oxygen cycle that we talked about in ecology, where you have things that are constantly in motion through organisms. And this right here is just a written version of what I just told you guys, is that photosynthesis takes CO2, water, and sunlight and makes sugar. Obviously, plants are the ones who are going to do this because they're the ones who photosynthesize. And cellular respiration is taking that same glucose you see here and making CO2 and water and sunlight. And you have to have oxygen as part of that process as well. And both plants and animals do this. It's important to remember that plants also eat their own sugar. They have to. It's them for to survive. But animals, when they eat the plant, are getting a hold of that glucose as well. So, ATP. This is basically the petrol of the cell. When I'm talking about how the cell makes energy and all these things, what I'm essentially saying is that your cells make a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, which you can see right here is the full word, is basically just your cell's petrol. Every single time your cell wants to run some kind of a chemical reaction, what happens is this, as you have an adenosine triphosphate molecule, which has this adenine, the ribose, and 3 phosphates. Your body then combines that with water, which breaks off one of the phosphates, and when it breaks off this phosphate, it generates energy. And bang, there you go. You have something your body can use, and all it has to do is take some water, and bam, it can release energy. And your body uses ATP for a lot of the chemical processes within it. So whenever you move yourself around, whenever you are going on a run or playing football, ATP is constantly being converted to ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, because they removed one of the phosphates off here. And bam, there you go. Now you have some energy to help you move from one side of the football field to the other side of the football field. Okay, so let's get this in review. There were a lot of new ideas here, and I covered the entire chapter 8 section 1 in one lesson, so this might have been a little bit much for you guys. So feel free to watch the video again, or as always, ask me questions in class. First key term, energy, just the ability to do work. Nothing really fancy there. Thermodynamics, this is just the study of energy and how it changes in the universe. Metabolism is easy. It's just all the chemical reactions in the cell. You're going to have to know two types of metabolism for this class. There's a catabolic and an anabolic. Catabolic is taking a big molecule and breaking it down to smaller molecules, and anabolic is just taking a small molecule and making it a bigger molecule. Photosynthesis is a process that takes place, it's an anabolic process that takes place in plants that takes CO2 and water and sunlight and turns it into sugar. Cellular respiration is a catabolic process, so it's breaking it down. It takes sugar and turns it into CO2 and H2O. And I got that part wrong. People who might catch that one out, I'm going to fix it later. And the last part is adenosine triphosphate, which is just your cell's petrol. It's how your body runs. Okay, so the activity today, guys, is pretty easy. Just open the cellular energy activity, work on the activity, answer the questions in Evernote, and you're done with this first lesson. Sorry for the wall of content. It's going to be kind of a pretty normal thing for this chapter. There's a lot of ideas that are very closely related, and it's hard for me to split it up into smaller parts. So this lesson might take a couple of tries, but don't worry. Raise your hand, ask me questions, and I'll help you out. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.